Hello, good day, everyone.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how do you do?
Hello, Abu, you are welcome.
All right.
Hmm.
Okay, so do you mind if we just wait for like 2-3 minutes? Let some more people join because seems like we really do not have a full house yet. So 2-3 minutes.
Perdão.
Okay, so welcome everyone. We'll be starting shortly.
You don't call this thing finish. No.
How much is it?
They say you don't have any money.
If the money are finished, now they can call you now.
Okay. All right, everybody. Good afternoon. I welcome you all to this interesting webinar or micro webinar actually. We don't have a full house yet, but it's a micro webinar. We really do not have we have those for 5 minutes, and I think it's best we jump right in. Okay. All right. So can you see my screen? Can anyone see my screen? Is my screen visible? Hello?
Yes, it is.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. All right. So we'll be starting with the micro webinar for 5 minutes. It's titled Demystifying Ishikawa. Demystifying Ishikawa. How to crack complex problems like a pro.
وتأكلون التراث.
Do you mind muting? Cracking problems like a pro. Okay. Okay. Kindly just mute if you are not talking. Thank you. Okay, so let me start with what I call the Kaizen tribe. It's a national anthem for the Kaizen tribe. We seek ways to enhance productivity. We're thirsty to boost performance. We love to grow and improve. We are Kaizen. I'll right in. Let me introduce myself. I'm Oladeji Ibrahim Kaizen. I will be your facilitator today. I into IT consulting, and then somehow I got into psychology and leadership, project management, blah 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 of things. I won't talk too much. Let's jump right in. Hey, there's GEM Center for Human Capital Development, where we do lots of trainings, coaching programs for organizations, particularly train people on how. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we have nearly almost. I think that should be sufficient. So we are here to discuss. I'm not a very formal person, so I hope you would forgive me if I display informality, kind of. So we are discussing Ishikawa here. Ishikawa has many names, so profound that it has so many names. We have the cause and effect diagram. We have the fishbone diagram. It's called the herringbone diagram and the Ishikawa diagram. If you look at it now, it got the name fishbone diagram from the structure of the diagram. As you can see from the image below, you can see that it actually takes the form of the skeleton of a fish, or like the bone structure of a fish. And that's why it got the name fishbone diagram. But the name is from the name of the academic who actually, how do I put it, who kind of came up with this concept of structuring problems this way. His name is Kaoru Ishikawa. He's a Japanese guy. We'll talk more about him. But before we jump into Ishikawa itself, I think it is very important that we understand the science behind Ishikawa. We understand the science behind problem solving. Okay. So, what's a problem? We know what problem is. The constraint, something you want to get out of your way, something you want to fix, As managers, people who are in charge of people who are in charge of systems, people who are in charge of processes, you would need to solve problems all the way. You would need to crack nuts as you progress and actually, in the course of getting your work done. In fact, even if you are not managers, as humans, we all face problems. And the more you are able to solve your problems in whatever way, the better you're able to live your life. So I don't think it's too much a sacrifice for you to leave out some time to actually learn more about how to approach problems, especially when we have some established methodologies, tools, models that would help you a lot in approaching problems. We have no choice. We are in this world. We can't run away, except you are dead or something. You have to face your problems. You can't keep running away from them. So being a sound problem solver is really important to our success. And much of the success depends on how you approach problems. There's this quote from Enrique Issa that says, problems are only opportunities in work clothes. What this means for us is, if you are able to develop the right approach to managing problems, you stand a huge chance of furthering your success in life, furthering your success at work, furthering your success in environment you find yourself, in school, at religious organizations, wherever you are. Okay, now let's take a minute to think about how you think when you solve problems. You could think of a problem you've solved in maybe the past 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever. Just think about a problem you have solved in recent times. And what approach did you use to solve it? What mental model did you use to solve it? Just some few seconds to just think through. Just pick 1 or 2 ideas from what you have done in the past. Okay, all right. Sorry. Okay, can you still see my screen? Yes, okay. Yeah. So, problem solving. There are stages to solving problems. These are pretty much common approach to how we get problem solved. The first one is problem identification. Then you structure the problem. Then you look for possible solutions. Then you make a decision on the solution you want to choose. Then you do your implementation, then feedback. This is pretty generic. We all know this. We have learned this. We all come across these structured stages of solving problems. I'm not here to repeat all of this. What we'll be talking about now is, we know these stages. We all know these stages, yes. But what stands people apart from others is how they actually carry out these steps. How they actually carry out these steps. This is a micro webinar. We won't be going into so much details about all the steps. We will be focusing on the second step here, structuring the problem. The way you structure the problem goes a long way in determining how you perceive the problem. That goes a long way in how you are able to picture the problem. And picturing the problem the right way defines how you will even be able to come up with solutions. Or let me start from the beginning, problem identification. I wouldn't stress too much on that because that's not what we are discussing today. It is very key that you ask the right questions. It is very key that you approach the proper way, identify the right problems. Because no matter how much you structure the problem, no matter how much time you spend on looking for solution, if you are solving the wrong problem, you are in the wrong direction. So let's assume that we have been able to understand the problem in the form of identifying it. So the next thing is we structure. And then after we structure, then we look for possible solutions. Okay, so those 2 items are what we'll be discussing in today's webinar. Maybe at some other webinars, we'll be looking at even the ones we are discussing, we just want to focus on something. We're actually going to Ishikawa, but before we get there, I want to discuss the science of Ishikawa itself, science of problem solving and structuring problems. Okay, so do you know that you can actually leverage on models to aid how you carry out these steps, your identification, your structuring of the problem, you're being able to come up with solution, you're being able to decide on whichever solution you want to do, and then your implementation, and then your feedback. You can leverage systems for this, models for this. You can leverage lots of existing thinking patterns to be able to make you achieve greater accuracy, make you greater effectiveness in your decision. Okay, so let's just discuss 2 interesting concepts before we proceed. We have divergent thinking and we have convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is the strategy of solving problems by thinking from different angles, by looking at multiple sides, perspectives, sources. You're not looking at one angle. You know, when you say the word divergent, something spreading out, something coming from different directions, different angles. So that is divergent thinking. Then the other side to this is called convergent thinking. In convergent thinking, you are trying to bring multiple things to a single point. You are trying to, just like that experiment we used to do in primary school, in which you want to use the mirror to converge the rays of the sun on a particular point. You understand that if you're able to converge the rays of the sun on a particular point, you might be able to burn, you might be able to create heat, create fire. So that's convergent thinking. How do you combine so much of things, of thoughts and ideas into one particular point? So there's this question of what's the best approach? Should you use the convergent approach of thinking or you use the divergent approach of thinking? That's an interesting one. It's a short one, but I don't know. Can one person just volunteer to throw in some thoughts about divergent and convergent thinking? Let's just hear from one person. What do you think? Hello, anybody? Uh-oh. Are we following? Do we have people in class? Okay, yes, your hand is stretched. Your hand is, okay, please proceed. Yes, you are raising your hand. Please proceed.
Yes, are you with me?
I'm with you.
Hello?
Quickly, please. Yes, please.
Divergent, just like you explained, is about having different view about a particular problem. But in the case of divergent thinking, is bringing the diverse solution, bringing them together to a point so that you try to find the difference among the solutions and bring them together in a uniform way so as to really solve the problem. Well, that's what I think, actually.
Thank you very much. My question was, between the divergent thinking, which one do you think is the best in solving problems?
Okay, can I speak to that?
Yeah, please, quickly.
I think convergence, because by convergence, you are trying to bring different opinions together, and by so doing, you'll be able to bring the best out of the different opinions.
Interesting. Did you say divergent or convergent?
Convergence, please.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Okay, let's proceed. So,
hello.
Okay, you want to throw in some thoughts?
Yes.
Oh yeah, quickly, please. Thank you.
Okay, I believe in choosing whether you are to use divergent and convergent thinking, you should consider the time involved. Because when you are to use divergent thinking, that means you have enough time to think and consider which one is the best, or you are trying to use many approaches to solve a problem. But I believe convergent thinking should be used in a situation where you have to solve a problem without maximum time frame. So I believe both are useful depending on the kind of problem you are solving.
Interesting. Thank you very much. You see, I like that angle of timing. But most of the time, we really are not it's not all the time we take decisions on fire. You have to take a decision like right there on the spot. Not all the time, you know. One thing is key. As you can see from the slide here, they're actually best used together. They are best used together. They're like Siamese twins. There are two angles to the same goal, two approaches to the same goal. Okay. Once the stage of divergent thinking is complete, then you have a wide range of ideas, wide range of approaches, wide range of perspectives. Then you can use convergent thinking to narrow. That's the winning formula. That's like the summary of what I'm saying, or what I want to be saying going forward. So divergent and convergent thinking, when used together, can help an analyst, can help you, can help anyone to arrive at a better and more creative solution than he or she might otherwise have. So one key takeaway from this webinar is that when you have to make decisions, combine divergent and convergent thinking. If you rush at convergent thinking, what could you be missing out? You could be missing out. Maybe your decision might not be wrong, but might not be optimal. Might not be the best decision at that point in time. Let's move on because of time. Okay. So divergent and convergent thinking can be used together in a 3-step process: brainstorming, reducing and categorizing, then ranking and selecting. So we'll be discussing more around these points. But before we proceed, PM competence is a potential superpower. What do we mean by this statement? PM here means project management. Why it is a potential superpower is that, well, I don't know if you people watch all these superpower movies and all of these things. From this image, you can see, I don't know, maybe let's name them, maybe Superman, maybe Spider-Man, maybe, can you mute please? Maybe Superman, maybe Spider-Man, maybe, I don't know those names. So the key here is project management is a world. Can you mute please? Project management is a huge world of tools, techniques, methodologies, approaches, and many more things that you can deploy on need. That you can deploy on need, that you can deploy as circumstances call for it. Okay, so I would temporarily disable your being able to unmute. Sorry for that. There's too much distraction. It's just a 45 minutes webinar and I'm trying to avoid being distracted. Okay, so project management is a world, a huge world of tools, techniques, soft skills, hard skills, methodologies, blah, 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 so much. It's like a dictionary. You don't take a dictionary to cram a dictionary. A dictionary is a toolkit of important stuffs that you reference when you need to get things done. So this is because when this webinar today discuss thinking, problem solving. So let's look into the world of project management to see, okay, which of the tools, which of the numerous tools that we have in project management that could be of great use to us. General management per se, not necessarily project management. What we'll be discussing today is quite generic. It's just that the PMI approach to project management has actually brought all of these things together for you in a concise manner for you to be able to, you know, strike and use when there's need for it. So we're back to where we started from, Ishikawa. So let's now discuss the diagram. I'll try to be very, very fast. So I hope not mind. So the Ishikawa is also called the cause and diagram, cause and effect analysis. It was devised by someone called Professor Kaoru Ishikawa. Is one huge big name in Japan, pioneer in quality management in the 1960s. He was born in 1915, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure you would, for you to appreciate the kind of management thoughts of the World War, the Second World War, the bomb in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. You are aware of how Japan was devastated by the US to end the Second World War. Rise back in a short time. Japan used to be the second, they used to have the second largest economy. Now, the third largest economy in the world. How were they able to rise from the low point to where they are today? It's because of huge, big minds like this, coming up with different thoughts, theories, operational points, operational principles to be able to drive their economy and, of course, grow the talent in the country. And this has been exported to different countries, and that's why we're discussing that here today. So, diagrams that you create are known as Ishikawa diagram or the fishbone diagram. It's called a because a completed diagram can look like the skeleton of a fish. So although originally, in fact, if you look at the PMP syllabus, this is used as a quality control. But the reality is, we want to solve problems. You are not only solving problems when you are dealing with quality management. You are solving problems as long as you are alive. You are solving problems as long as you are managing anything. In fact, even yourself, you are managing. So we all need to, you use this when you want to discover the root cause. Another name for Ishikawa is the root cause diagram. It's used to drill through different matters of getting the root cause of a problem. You use it to uncover bottlenecks in processes. You use it to identify where and why a process is not working. Okay, so generally, this is of the steps to Ishikawa. Identify the problem, that's the first step. The second step is to work out the major factors involved. We will be spending a lot of time in this step too. And the third step is identify the possible causes. Okay, so this is an example of an Ishikawa diagram. So let me walk you through the basic elements of an Ishikawa diagram. The core of Ishikawa is that line. Okay, let me annotate so that you can follow. You can see the line at the center of the diagram. It's like a stem, the main stem. So what you have in front here, the problem we are trying to solve. So you represent the problem you want to solve with a rectangle or a square. Some use the right side, some use the left side. The side does not matter. What matters most is getting the structure right. Okay, so now we have the stem. The next thing now is the branches off the stem. You have branches off the stem, and that takes us to that step 2, which is understanding the major categories. Now, as you can see here, the branches of the main stem in this diagram are customer knowledge, customer service representative knowledge, and call center environment. What do we mean by this? When you have identified the problem, you ask yourself, what are the major keys of the possible sources of the problem? Like in this case now, the problem is the fact that the call center that is attending to customers exceeding the 2-minute benchmark that they have set for themselves. They are exceeding the 2-minute benchmark that they have set for themselves. So now the question is asked, how do you solve this problem? What is the source of the problem? Why are we exceeding 2 minutes all the time? One possible source is knowledge of the customer itself. Another source is the customer rep, the person actually on the phone picking the call. Then the third source here is to say, okay, the call center environment itself will be responsible for this problem. So that is a step. Identify the big categories that could be responsible for the problem. Now, we are not done. What we do next from here is, for every category, you want to drill down further to ask the question, customer knowledge. In relation to customer knowledge, what are the possible sources? So the key idea or the mindset we want to imbibe in approaching our problems is that we should be detailed in our thinking. We should not rush at problems. Take your identify the key areas, the major categories of problem. Then once you are done, for each of the categories, you now want to identify possible sources or causes of the problem. So in the direction of customer knowledge, there could be customer it cannot use the problem, the software. Maybe they're having issues. They don't even recognize the model of what they are trying to work on. Maybe the customer is not even unable to describe the problem. That is the reason why the calls are exceeding 2 minutes. In the category of customer service representative knowledge, okay, it could be that the calls are exceeding 2 minutes because the customer reps are not familiar with the problem, or because the customer rep does not have that competency to be able to navigate through their portal as fast as possible, hence the lengthening of the call. Then you also have another category of the environment of the call center itself, language, noisy environment, excessive overtime. The key principle here, let me repeat that once again, is that in solving problems, number one, we should be detailed. We should not just jump at problems. Try to exhaustively identify the possible sources of the problem. This is called root cause analysis. So for every major source, you now want to identify the causes under those sources. In fact, you would see there will be times in which one of the causes you identify might even now have sub-causes. There's an example I'll be showing us that has that shortly. Okay. This is another example here. I don't know which of us do we watch football. This is a case of, okay, too many free throws being missed by the players. That's a problem. So let's assume that you as a coach, why is it that we keep throwing, we keep doing throws and they are being missed by players? Okay, what are the possible big categories of the sources of the problem? It could be from the shooter. It could even be from the ball itself. It could be from the shooting mechanism, and it could be from the hook and the backboard. So let's just discuss the shooter and the ball. If it's the shooter, could it be that the shooter has not practiced well? Could it be concentrating? Could it be that the shooter has confidence problem or having problems with stress? About the ball itself, maybe the ball has wrong grip. Maybe the ball has faulty air pressure. Maybe there could be some form of lopsidedness in the ball itself. You can see that we're identifying big categories, and then for each of the categories, we are identifying causes for the categories. Why is this useful? It forces us to think in a structured way. Why is this useful? It forces us not to, I beg your pardon, not to be lazy in our thinking. It forces us to be meticulous. Yes, I've been looking for that word. It forces us to be meticulous in our approach to solving problems. There's a big problem if we always jump at problems. Yes, that's a big problem itself. Jumping at problems. Why I agree with the madam that says that there are times in which you are short of time. Yes, I agree. Even when you are short, you really don't have time. Is it like we just jump at what comes to our head? No, not that. Okay. The problems that we have in our head, no. We always have this way of trying to break things down and think in systems, think in a structured way. Okay, now this is a more complicated one. I wouldn't read through, but the key point here is, as you can see from this, an uncooperative branch office. There is a problem of an uncooperative branch office. And then in trying to get the root cause of the problem, they are saying, okay, could the problem be from the sites? Could the problem be from tasks? Could it be from equipment? Could it be from controls? Could it be from people? And then for each one, you have branching out. And in some cases, you have the branching out itself branching out further. You keep asking questions. There's a principle. It's called the 5 why. I don't know if, of course, it's quite popular. You know the 5 why. You keep asking why. You keep asking why. Somebody, the problem, you ask why. Why do we have that problem? Then something comes up. Then you ask, why is that thing relevant to this context? Then you ask why again. Then you ask why again. Then you ask why again. In that process of asking why, in fact, it said that you would solve most problems, well, solve in quotes, you would solve, or you get good insights about most problems if you are able to ask why 5 times. You would get good insight about most problems if you are able to ask why 5 times. So this is a structure. So the Ishikawa diagram is giving us okay. Hello, can you hear me? Someone is saying they can't hear me. Can anyone hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Can you just unmute and say yes?
Yes.
Yes, just that it's breaking.
Okay, someone says it's breaking. Is that general to everybody or not?
Not general.
Okay, it's not general. Okay, so maybe that's a local connection problem on your side. Mr. Salah, you are actually breaking while telling us it's breaking, so it's probably from your side. So where was I? It's 45 minutes, so, and it don't almost nap. You can imagine, it's almost 45 minutes. Let's proceed. Where am I? Okay. I said you would get good insights about most why 5 times. You ask why, then you keep asking why. You ask why 5 times. Most likely by the 5th time, you'd have some very good clarity about that. Now, brainstorming. Divergent thinking is all about brainstorming. The Ishikawa diagram is a structure that you can use to visualize your brainstorming. And that's the most important thing you want to take away from here about the Ishikawa diagram. It's a structure. It gives you a structure to be able to visualize your brainstorming. Of course, you agree with me that if you want to start writing lots of story about all these options, you would have a lot of text. But how about using Ishikawa diagram to give your brainstorming session a clear form? Give your brainstorming session, a visual approach so that you can even present, and then in your meeting just project this screen and everybody can actually see the interplay between the various major categories, the courses for the categories, the sub courses for the categories, and the sub courses for each of the categories. I'm not done. Now, for Ishikawa, you can see from here that in this case, the categories for this, you had sites, you had task. In trying to investigate why a branch is not cooperating, they had the category of, is it a function of the sites? Is it a function of the tasks given to them? Is it a function of the people involved? Is it a function of the equipment they're using? Or is it a function of control measures? In the previous one about throwing the ball, you had the question of, is it a function of the shooter? Is it a function of the ball? Is it a function of the shooting mechanism, or probably the hoop and backboard? The first one about calls exceeding 2 minutes. We said, is it a function of the customer knowledge? Is it a function of the knowledge of the customer service rep? Or is it a function of the call center environment? All these are unique categories for those circumstances. So I'm believing that you would ask me that, do we have generic categories? Yes, we have generic categories. And these are the generic categories. So generic, when I say generic, I mean something, what's generic? Generic something that might fit into as many cases possible, or like a template from which you can now modify or customize to your unique circumstance. You cannot have only one category system because different problems would have different kinds of problem sources. So the generic set of problem sources we have for Ishikawa diagram, they are this. You have methods. If there is a problem you are trying to solve, can you brainstorming that could it be as a result of the method that we are using that is the source of the problem? So look at the method you are using. Look through the method you are using. What are the possible sources of problem, causes of the problem as a result of the method you are using? Machine, equipment. Okay, the equipment you are using, the machines you are using, what are the possible sources or causes of the problem as a result of the machines you're using? People, I think that one is quite understandable now. People, manpower. You have a particular problem. Now, what are the possible causes of this problem as a result of the people who are working on the, working on the problem, or working, people that as in the context of the problem, the people involved, could they be the source? And what are the possible causes of the problem from people? Then you have from raw materials or from the input you are giving into the system. Could that be the source of the problem? If what are the identifiable causes of the problem in the direction of the materials you're using? In the direction of the system, how you are measuring your control system, could that be the source of the problem? Think through and itemize possible causes in that direction too. Then finally, you have environment. Looking at the environment, can you identify some possible causes of the problem? So these are the generic major categories that we have for for the Ishikawa diagram. So this is a very quick example. This is an example from manufacturing. So you have a problem of shorting motor coils, causing 23% failure rate. Cool destruct test. This is very technical. I'm not an engineer. So maybe we have some engineers here. I hope you understand. But anyway, let's just get the concept. To brainstorm on the problem direction of getting to the root cause. Now we're asking questions. In terms of the machine we are using, what are the possible causes of the problem? In terms of the method we are using, what are the possible causes of the problem? In terms of the manpower you are using, the people we are using, what are the possible causes of the problem? In terms of how you are measuring your metrics, your control system, what are the possible sources of the problem? In terms of the raw materials, the input you are giving into the system, what are the possible sources of the problem? And then, as you can see from here, in this case now, customize the generic list. They have included something called minutes. So the generic list is generic from the word. It's not cast on stone. You're supposed to customize to your own need. Okay? So now, this is, okay, we have just about 4 more minutes to finish this webinar. I want to pass across a very important message. We are not done. What we have done now is, let me go back to this slide. Yes, what we have done now is brainstorming. We've come up with a list of possible, okay, this is a huge list of possible sources of problems. Okay, so what do we do next? Okay, what do we do next? How do you handle this situation? That will take us to the next micro webinar. That will take us to a tool called Pareto. I'm sure you must have heard of Pareto. Pareto is a magical tool that you can use to simplify your life, simplify your approach to problems, simplify your approach to the way you think, simplify your approach to life. Let me just tell you something little about Pareto. Pareto means 80-20 principle. In using the divergent and convergent thinking, you first of all start with divergent by thinking through what are the possible sources, possible causes, possible sources, possible causes of problems. We have done that now. We've been able to structure that with our Ishikawa diagram. That is the first stage, or well, that is a stage in the direction of solving problems. Most of the time, by the time you structure the sources of problem, you get very deep insight into the nature of the problem. And at that point, you have clearer idea of how to solve. You have clearer idea of how to solve the problem. So what you do from here is reducing and categorizing, and then ranking and selecting. I'll just summarize those two areas. When you want to do your ranking and selecting, at this point, you have the huge categories of the sources of the problem. At this point, you have the causes of the possible causes of the problems. So you take out some more time, look through them, use observation, interview, blah, 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 to try to see out of all of these things, use a number of factors to be able to do some ranking. You know, all the sources cannot be responsible for the problem. So you want to do some form of ranking. There are tools and techniques you would use for this. We're out of time. We wouldn't be able to go into this today. So we'll continue from here. You are now on our mailing list. You'll be sent an email at the date and time of the next micro webinar. We're out of time, but let's just use some 5 minutes to just take 2 questions. Okay? All right. Can you kindly unmute? Just 2 people. Raise your hand. I'll call people to ask questions before we call it a day. Okay, beautiful. No questions, right? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes,
Questions?
sir, I can hear you, sir.
All right, please proceed with the question quickly, please. Okay, so it seems we don't have any question, which is good. Well, is it good or bad? I don't know. So thank you very much for coming. We'll get back to you on when our next micro webinar would be coming up. All right, have a nice day, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.